Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Long before galaxies shimmered and stars awakened, there was silence. Not the kind of silence we know when a room goes still or when a breeze fades into stillness, but something deeper, more ancient. A silence that seemed to hold its breath before anything could breathe. It is this pippins, this curious veil of nothing that invites us to wonder, did nothing ever truly exist? When we look into the night sky, what we see feels vast and full of mystery. Yet even that deep velvet darkness is not empty. The darkness hums with particles, with fields, with unseen threads of energy. To imagine nothing is to imagine a space without even those invisible whispers. No air, no dust, no light, no space itself. It is a kind of dream our minds can barely hold on to, slipping through like water through open fingers. Some philosophers of old tried to picture it. They closed their eyes and imagined an endless void, a place where even the void was absent. They asked themselves, if there was a time before the universe, what was there? Was it a cradle of nothing? Or was nothing itself only a word? A fragile attempt to describe what we cannot see. These questions were as heavy as mountains, yet as delicate as morning mist. They carried them in poems, in debates, in whispers, under the stars. Science in its gentle but steady way tried to look closer. When modern physics gazes into what we might call emptiness, it does not find stillness. Instead, it finds bubbling activity, small flickers of life in the vacuum. In quantum fields, what we call empty space dances with ghost-like particles, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. The void is alive with motion, subtle as the quiet rise and fall of the ocean under moonlight. So perhaps the silence before the stars was not pure nothingness at all, but a stage already humming with possibility. Imagine yourself drifting through this imagined silence. There are no directions, no up or down, no past or future. Just a gentle endlessness that feels like it has no edges. You float there, but there is nothing to float in, nothing to anchor to, nothing to even define what floating means. It feels peaceful, almost comforting, as though you are wrapped in a blanket made of pure absence. And yet, deep within that peace, something waits, something unseen, but ready. The human mind loves beginnings. We are creatures who look for first steps, for origins, for the instant where silence becomes sound. In the great story of the universe, the beginning often feels like a line. Before it, nothing. After it, everything. But science whispers a different tale. It tells us that what we call before may not have meaning. Time itself may have unfolded from the very first spark, as though the clock began its ticking only after light took its first breath. To ask what came before may be like asking what lies north of the North Pole, a question that feels clear but dissolves when we try to walk toward it. And yet still the idea of nothing tugs at us. We long to picture it, to give shape to something shapeless. When children ask, what was there before the universe? Adults often pause, caught in wonder, caught in the impossibility of the question. It is as though the silence before the stars calls to us across all ages, inviting us to lean closer, to listen, to imagine. The ancients once thought of creation as an unfolding from chaos, or from a cosmic egg, or from the breath of gods. These images, though mythical, spoke to the same yearning to explain how something can emerge where there was nothing. Modern cosmology does not use myth, yet it too holds mysteries. The Big Bang, that first expansion, was not an explosion in space, it was the expansion of space itself. The universe did not burst into an empty room. The room itself was born in the moment. Even here, nothingness slips through our grasp. We may say that before the Big Bang there was nothing, but physics suggests otherwise. Perhaps there was no before at all, only a beginning without a background. Or perhaps there were quantum fluctuations, a restless fabric that sparked the birth of all we know. Nothing may never have been still, never truly absent, but always pregnant with possibility, always alive with invisible seeds of creation. As we drift deeper into this thought, the silence before the stars feels less like emptiness and more like a canvas. Not a canvas of white or black, but of transparency, unseen, waiting for paint. Every atom, every star, every galaxy was already there, hidden and potential. It is as if the universe was a poem that already existed in silence, waiting for the first line to be spoken. Now imagine the first glimmer of light piercing that silence. A universe that begins not with a roar, but with a gentle swelling, like the opening of a flower at dawn. Space stretching, time awakening, particles dancing their first dance. What seemed like nothing reveals itself to be the most fertile ground of all. Out of silence, song, out of emptiness, fullness, out of nothing, everything. The thought itself is calming, like lying on soft grass and staring at the stars, realizing those stars were once folded into silence. That silence holds us too, even now. When we pause, when we breathe, when the world grows quiet around us, we can almost touch that ancient stillness. It lingers in the spaces between heartbeats, in the hush of night, in the quiet pause before words. The silence before the stars is not gone. It lives within us, as though we carry a memory of the beginning. And so the question, did nothing ever exist, remains. Some will say yes, once there was nothing. Others will say no, for even nothing is something. But perhaps the truest answer lies not in certainty, but in wonder. Perhaps the gift of the question is not to solve it, but to rest within it, to feel the peace of a mystery that cradles us gently. The silence before the stars invites us not to know, but to dream, to drift, to let the edges of thought soften. You can almost feel it now, the weightless hush, the breathless stillness that held the promise of galaxies. It is not frightening. It is not lonely. It is the deepest lullaby the universe has ever sung. And as we sink into its embrace, we find that nothingness, whether it ever existed or not, has become a companion, a reminder of how precious something truly is. The silence before the stars is not only a question of beginnings, but also a mirror to the world we live in now. When we think of nothing, we do not only imagine a time before galaxies, but also the spaces in between, the gaps, the pauses, the invisible currents that weave our universe together. In physics, the spaces we call empty are anything but vacant. They are woven with quantum fields stretching endlessly, humming quietly with fluctuations. Even in the quietest corners of the cosmos, where galaxies are separated by billions of light years, there is still something subtle, a faint vibration that never fully fades away. To picture this, close your eyes and imagine yourself drifting far beyond the last star you can see. You float into the dark ocean of space, past clusters and filaments, into a region where galaxies grow rare. The silence deepens, the darkness grows thicker, and yet beneath that stillness, something shimmers. Invisible particles flicker in and out of existence. They do not ask permission, nor do they stay. They simply emerge, vanish, and emerge again, as though the void itself cannot resist creating. This dance is called quantum fluctuation, and it reminds us that even what we call nothing is a restless sea of becoming. The idea of vacuum energy reveals another layer of this hidden richness. A vacuum, by our simple understanding, should be bare, hollow, empty. But quantum mechanics whispers differently. It tells us that a vacuum is a field alive with potential energy. It is not a blank page, but a page already filled with faint markings we cannot see with our eyes. From this energy, particles are born, and with them light and matter. The very fabric of the cosmos springs from this hidden well. If we lean close to what we think is nothing, we hear it murmur with secrets, like the faint rush of a river beneath frozen ice. Some scientists suggest that the universe itself may have been born from such fluctuations, that out of the restless breath of vacuum energy, a tiny spark expanded into the vastness we see today. If this is true, then the silence before the stars was never truly empty. It was a womb, carrying within it the pulse of everything to come. This thought softens the harsh edges of the word nothing. It becomes less a barren desert and more a seedbed, less absence and more presence in disguise. And yet there are deeper mysteries still. The laws of physics themselves, gravity, electromagnetism, the forces that shape the world, must have existed for the dance of particles and fields to unfold. Where did those laws come from? Were they always there, written into the silence like the grammar of an unwritten poem? Or did they too awaken with the first light, emerging from the very fabric of expansion? These questions drift beyond proof, but they cradle us in wonder, gently urging us to accept that silence itself may hold more than we can see. Now think of time. In our daily lives, time flows like a river, carrying us forward in an endless current. But in the silence before the stars, what did time mean? If there were no suns to measure, no planets to turn, no atoms to tick in vibration, was there time at all? Perhaps time itself was born with the first spark of expansion. To speak of before may be only an echo of human habit, a word without meaning in that ancient stillness. In this way, nothingness becomes not only an absence of matter, but also an absence of time, a state beyond even the reach of our imagination. Some thinkers wonder whether our universe is just one bloom in a vast garden. If quantum fields are restless, then perhaps our universe is not the only story they have written. Perhaps there are countless others, each one expanding from its own moment of silence. If this is true, then the silence before our stars is part of a greater silence, a cosmic meadow where universes rise and fall like wildflowers. Some may fade quickly, others may blossom into galaxies, but all are held within the same deep mystery. The space where nothing becomes something. As we reflect, we notice that nothingness is not only a question for science, but also for the human heart. We meet silence in our own lives, in pauses between words, in the stillness of meditation, in the quiet of night. These small silences are not empty, they are full of meaning. They give shape to music, to thought, to rest. Without silence, sound would be noise. Without pauses, speech would be endless and overwhelming. In this way, our daily lives echo the structure of the cosmos. What we call nothing gives meaning to what we call something. You can almost feel the kinship. The silence before the stars is like the silence before a heartbeat, before a song, before a moment of clarity. It is the waiting hush that makes the arrival of light so powerful. To drift in this thought is calming, like sitting at the edge of the ocean and listening to waves form and fade. There is rhythm in absence, beauty in the pause, presence in what seems empty. Nothing becomes a kind of music, a low hum that carries us gently forward. And so nothingness continues to shape our understanding. It lingers not only in the ancient questions of cosmology, but also in the smallest details of physics. Even inside the atoms of our bodies, there is vast space. The particles that form you, the protons, the electrons, are tiny, while the distances between them are enormous. You are built mostly of emptiness, and yet in that emptiness forces bind, light moves, energy flows. What looks like nothing is in truth a delicate architecture, a space where the unseen keeps you whole. To think of this is to feel both small and vast. Small, because we are but one breath in the long song of the cosmos. Vast, because we carry within us the same silence that once held the birth of galaxies. The nothing that seems to surround us is the same nothing that lives inside us, humming with possibility, alive with invisible threads. The silence before the stars was not a dead void. It was a living question, a fertile pause, a mystery that gave birth to everything. It still whispers to us now, in physics, in philosophy, in the quiet moments when we close our eyes. And as we listen, we find that the answer is not whether nothing ever existed, but whether we are willing to rest in the wonder it gives us. That wonder is its own kind of fullness. It is enough. The silence before the stars now feels less like an ending point of thought and more like an open horizon. We have wandered through the idea of nothing as an absence, then as a restless field, then as a fertile ground of potential. And now, gently, we arrive at a place of reflection, where science, poetry, and the human spirit meet. What does it mean, truly, that perhaps nothing never existed at all? What does it mean that silence was always full, that emptiness was always alive? To rest in this question is to learn how to listen. The universe speaks in waves of light, in pulses of gravity, in whispers of particles that flicker and fade. It speaks not always in sound, but in silence as well. We hear it when we look into the night sky, when we stand beneath a stretch of stars and feel both fragile and infinite. The silence is not empty. It is holding us. It is the quiet canvas that makes the stars shine brighter. Without the dark, without the quiet, the light would have no stage on which to dance. Consider how deeply nothingness surrounds us. Between the stars is vast space, between galaxies a greater stillness. Even inside your own atoms, emptiness rules, with particles separated by gulfs larger than their size. You are made of space, and yet you are whole. You are made of silence, and yet you are alive. To see this is to understand that what we once feared as nothingness is not a void but a companion, shaping everything we know. There is something calming in realizing that nothingness, if it ever existed, is never hostile. It does not roar or rage. It does not destroy. It simply holds, simply waits, simply allows. And from that patient quiet, creation emerges, again and again in galaxies, in stars, in the spark of life itself. Perhaps the silence before the stars is not something behind us, but something that continues within us, in every pause, in every breath, in every heartbeat that waits before the next. Science, at its core, does not erase wonder, it deepens it. When physics tells us that empty space is alive with fields and fluctuations, it is not stripping away the mystery. It is showing us that silence hums with music too soft for our ears. When cosmology tells us that time itself may have begun with the universe, it is not closing the question, it is opening it wider, reminding us that the deepest mysteries remain untouched like mountains on the far horizon. Philosophy too joins in the gentle conversation. Some thinkers say that nothingness is not real, that every attempt to describe it fills it with qualities, with presence. To even imagine nothing is to imagine something. Others say nothingness is a necessary thought, a shadow of being, reminding us that we notice what exists only because we dream of what does not. In this way, nothing becomes not a reality, but a mirror, helping us see being more clearly. And what of the heart? The heart finds its own wisdom in silence. Think of the pauses in music. A symphony without rests would be a storm without calm, a rush without breath. The spaces between notes make the melody tender. Or think of the pauses in speech. A word spoken after silence has weight, as though the quiet gives it wings. In love, in grief, in joy, silence speaks more than sound. In this way, our lives echo the silence before the stars. We carry it with us, not as an emptiness, but as a gentle presence. Now imagine yourself again in that ancient hush. Imagine drifting at the edge of the first moment, where time had not yet begun, where space had not yet stretched, where matter had not yet formed. It is not frightening. It is like floating in the softest ocean, like being held in a cradle of stillness. And then, softly, almost imperceptibly, light begins. The universe breathes, time stirs, galaxies dream themselves into being. You are there, a witness to the tender unfolding, and you realize what you thought was nothing was always everything. This thought lingers like the last note of a lullaby. It does not demand answers, it does not demand urgency. It asks only that you rest in the wonder, that you allow yourself to feel the calm of a mystery larger than yourself. Did nothing ever exist? Perhaps not. Perhaps silence is always alive. Perhaps the absence we imagine is always already filled with the seeds of presence. And perhaps the beauty of the question is that it will never be solved, only felt. We end where we began, with silence. But now it feels different. It is no longer a hollow emptiness, but a gentle companion. It is the hush that cradled the stars before they were born, the quiet that surrounds us in the night sky, the pause between breaths that carries us into sleep. The silence before the stars is still here, still holding us, still reminding us that what we call nothing may be the most tender fullness of all. As you close your eyes, you can almost hear it, the ancient hush, the soft embrace, the deepest calm. The universe carries it still, and so do you, in the spaces between words, in the pauses of thought, in the quiet moments when time seems to soften. You return to that silence, and it whispers gently, not with sound, but with presence. You are part of everything, and everything once grew from this stillness. The silence before the stars lives on, and it will never fade. Between every star that burns and every atom that hums, there is breath. Not the breath of lungs, nor the breath of wind, but a subtle rhythm, a quiet exchange that holds the universe together. This is the breath between particles, the unseen conversation that allows the world to be. Though we cannot feel it on our skin or hear it with our ears, it is always there, weaving the smallest building blocks of matter into a living tapestry. To imagine it, let your thoughts drift down, far beneath the scale of what your eyes can see. Past the dust, past the fibres of wood, past the cells of your body, down to molecules and then to atoms, those tiny spheres that once seemed to be the indivisible foundation of all things. Yet atoms themselves are not whole. Within them lie protons and neutrons huddled together in the nucleus, while electrons drift in their wide, ghostly orbits. And between these particles is space, more space than substance. You are made of this breath of space, a vast emptiness holding tiny sparks of presence. The protons and neutrons themselves are not solid marbles, but swirling gatherings of even smaller entities called quarks, bound together by the strong nuclear force. Quarks do not sit still. They flicker and dance, trading invisible messengers called gluons, which bind them as surely as gravity binds you to the earth. It is in these exchanges, in this endless passing back and forth, that the breath between particles reveals itself. The universe at its most fundamental is not silent blocks of matter stacked together, but restless whispers, constant connection, an unbroken sharing of energy. This breath is not a metaphor only. It is real, measurable, though hidden from ordinary senses. Particles do not exist as isolated beads. They shimmer with probabilities, they stretch into waves, they overlap in clouds of possibility. The electron around an atom does not circle like a planet, but hovers like a mist, spread across space until the act of observation draws it into place. In this way, the breath between particles is also the breath of uncertainty, the gentle reminder that nothing is fixed and everything is always becoming. Now imagine yourself shrinking down, drifting into the heart of an atom. You move past the outer electron clouds into the central nucleus. The protons and neutrons churn in a constant exchange, their quarks reaching out and pulling back with gluons that hold them tight. You are surrounded by energy, by motion, by breath. Though there is no air here, no lungs, no breeze. The breath between particles is not made of air, but of interaction, of connection. It is the whisper of forces, the hum of existence itself. This rhythm carries into every corner of your life. The warmth of the sun on your skin is the breath of photons, born in the core of a star, travelling across space and finally exchanging energy with the electrons in your body. The light you see in a candle flame is the breath of atoms releasing their stored energy as photons, dancing into your eyes. Every colour, every glow, every spark you have ever witnessed is the story of particles breathing energy to one another. Without this constant exhale and inhale of quanta, there would be no stars, no life, no you. Physicists speak of 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force and the weak force. Together they guide the breath between particles. Gravity draws matter into galaxies and planets. Electromagnetism binds atoms and creates the glow of fire and lightning. The strong force holds the quarks inside protons, the glue of nuclei. The weak force shapes the transformations that power the sun. Each of these forces is a kind of breath, a kind of invisible exchange, a reminder that particles are never alone but always in relationship, always touching one another in ways we cannot see. It is soothing to realize that connection is written into the smallest scales of nature. Nothing is solitary. Every particle depends on others, exchanging energy, whispering across space. Even what we call emptiness is filled with virtual particles appearing and disappearing, like sparks of breath that flicker too quickly to last. The vacuum itself is alive, and in its aliveness, it reminds us that nothing rests entirely still. This truth flows outward into the cosmos. The galaxies we see are built from stars, the stars from atoms, the atoms from particles, and the particles from these endless exchanges. The grand sweep of spiral arms across the heavens is written by the same breath that passes between quarks inside a proton. The small and the vast are not separate stories, but one single song played in different keys. The breath between particles is the same rhythm that carries galaxies into motion. When you close your eyes and rest, your body hums with this invisible rhythm. Electrons shift, bonds stretch and release. Molecules share their quiet breath. Even sleep itself is supported by this hidden conversation. The life in you is not only your heartbeat, not only your lungs, but also the endless, tireless breathing of matter itself, the gentle hum of particles whispering across the silence. And so, to think of the breath between particles is to feel calm. It tells us that we are not alone, that even the smallest parts of us are held in endless relationship. It reminds us that the world is not static but alive, trembling softly with exchanges we cannot hear. And as we sink into this thought, we begin to sense the beauty of being built not from solid walls, but from breath, from rhythm, from connection. The universe does not merely exist, it breathes quietly, endlessly, and we breathe with it. The breath between particles is more than the heartbeat of physics. It is the quiet fabric that links the smallest scales of matter to the grandest stretches of the cosmos. If we follow its rhythm, it carries us from quarks and gluons into the vast networks of stars, galaxies, and clusters. What feels like emptiness is filled with this subtle exchange, always unfolding, always alive. To drift deeper into its story is to begin noticing how this breath shapes not only matter, but also energy, light, and the very unfolding of time. At the heart of every atom, the protons and neutrons breathe with each other, bound tightly by the strong force. This force is not weak or gentle, but the most powerful of all. It is the glue that resists separation, holding quarks together even when enormous energy tries to tear them apart. Without it, atoms would dissolve, stars would never shine, and the universe would unravel into dust too fine to take shape. Yet as mighty as this force is, it acts only across the tiniest of distances, reaching no farther than the heart of the nucleus. Its breath is close, intimate, like two hands clasped tightly in the dark. Beyond this intimate breath lies another, the breath of electromagnetism. This is the force that binds electrons to protons, creating the structure of atoms. It is also the force that sends light streaming across the sky, that allows energy to move from one place to another in delicate waves. Every spark of fire, every glow of starlight, every flicker of lightning is born of this breath. It is a breath that stretches far beyond the nucleus, reaching across space, weaving matter into molecules, molecules into patterns, patterns into life. You can almost feel it now, humming inside you, holding your body together with invisible threads of attraction and repulsion. And then, softly, there is the weak force. At first it seems shy, for it acts in rare moments, in transformations hidden deep within matter. Yet without it the sun could not shine, for the sun's fire is not just a blaze of hydrogen, but the delicate transformation of particles into new forms, guided by the weak force. This force is like a secret breath, unseen yet vital, for it powers the light that warms the earth, the energy that fuels life, the glow that fills your eyes when you look at the stars. Even weakness, even gentleness, has its own strength. Finally, there is gravity, the breath that guides galaxies, that bends the paths of stars, that holds you close to the earth as you sleep. Gravity is the faintest whisper of all, for it is the weakest of the forces, yet it reaches the farthest. Breath does not fade with distance, stretches endlessly, binding everything into one shared embrace. It's because of gravity that galaxies spin, that planets orbit, that oceans rise and fall with the moon. Gravity reminds us that even the softest breath can shape the grandest patterns. Together, these four forces form the rhythm of the universe. They are the instruments of the great symphony, the steady breath that allows everything else to unfold. And in their interplay they create balance, beauty, and life. It is no wonder that scientists spend lifetimes trying to understand them, to weave them into a single story, a single breath that might explain everything. They dream of a unified field theory, a gentle truth that would show all forces as one, a single breath between particles that reveals the unity beneath the diversity. Now imagine drifting out into the cosmos again, this time not to see stars but to feel the spaces between them. You pass beyond planets, beyond the solar wind, into the deep silence where galaxies stretch across unimaginable distances. Even here, the breath continues. Photons drift through the void, carrying whispers of energy from one place to another. Neutrinos slip silently through everything, rarely stopping, like ghosts of the weak force. Dark matter, unseen and unknown, pulls gently at galaxies, breathing its hidden influence across the universe. And in the deepest fabric of space, dark energy stretches the cosmos wider, a breath so vast it pushes galaxies apart like leaves on a pond. What we call breath is not simply the exchange of matter, but the reminder that the universe is never still. Every particle vibrates, exchanges, shifts, even in what we call emptiness. And this motion is not chaos, but rhythm. It follows laws, patterns, symmetries, as though the universe is guided by a music too deep for ears. This music does not rush, it flows like a lullaby, a patient hum that has carried on for billions of years, and will carry on long after us. When you bring this thought back to your own life, it softens everything. The breath between particles is the same breath that carries through your body, through every cell, through every thought. It reminds you that even rest is alive, even silence hums with meaning. You're not separate from the cosmos, you're made of it, woven from its breath. Every moment, every heartbeat is part of a rhythm that began long before you and will continue long after. This realization does not need to be grand or overwhelming. It can be gentle, like the quiet joy of watching snow fall, or hearing the tide flow in and out, or feeling your lungs fill with air. These small, simple things are mirrors of the larger truth. Everything breathes, and you are part of that breath. Even particles, even stars, even galaxies are held together by this endless rhythm. And so the breath between particles is not only the foundation of physics, it is also a poem written into the fabric of being. It whispers that nothing stands alone, that all is held in relationship, that life itself is not a separate song but part of the great cosmic harmony. To feel this is to find peace, as though the universe itself is breathing you, gently, endlessly, into existence. As we reach the quiet conclusion of this exploration, it is gentle to rest in the understanding that the universe is a constant symphony of breaths, each particle contributing its voice to an eternal melody. Imagine, for a moment, the spaces between particles as vast oceans of unseen conversation, where gluons, photons and quarks whisper secrets across distances, both infinitesimal and infinite. In this expanse, no particle is isolated, no atom ever truly alone. The dance of matter is a shared rhythm, a continuous exchange that links the smallest scales of existence to the cosmic vastness. If you let yourself drift deeper into this reflection, you may feel the interconnectedness of all things. Each breath between particles resonates through time, echoing backward into the origins of the universe and forward into the countless moments yet to unfold. In these whispers, there is a sense of calm permanence, a continuity that persists even when stars die and galaxies drift apart. Energy is never lost. It only transforms, flowing from one state to another, weaving an invisible web of connection that holds the cosmos in gentle balance. Within your own body, this cosmic rhythm mirrors itself. Your cells are a theatre of tiny exchanges, where molecules float and collide, where electrons leap from one atom to another in a choreography of life. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every thought is threaded into the larger pattern of the universe, a reflection of the same processes that guide distant stars. To recognize this is to feel a profound intimacy with the cosmos, a quiet assurance that you are part of a story that stretches across time and space, written in the language of energy and interaction. Consider the photons streaming from the sun, each carrying the energy of a nuclear furnace billions of miles away. They journey through the void, touching the earth and igniting the subtle reactions that sustain life. The breath between particles ensures that this energy is transferred, that it becomes warmth, light, and nourishment. And yet these photons are also waves, spreading their influence broadly, a reminder that presence is not confined to solid forms, but is woven into the fabric of possibility itself. Even the void, that seeming emptiness, is vibrant with activity. Virtual particles appear and vanish in a flicker too brief for human perception, yet their influence is real. This quantum foam, as scientists call it, is alive with tiny breaths, each one a whisper of existence that subtly shapes reality. It is in this dance that the universe demonstrates its gentle complexity, a reminder that silence is never empty, that stillness is never void. We can see parallels in the way life unfolds around us. Rivers flow in continuous exchange with land, forests breathe with the wind, oceans pulse with the rhythm of tides. Ecosystems are vast networks of interaction, a macrocosm that mirrors the microscopic breaths between particles. Each element depends on another, each motion ripples through the whole, and each life is intertwined with countless others in an intricate, gentle balance. Nature itself teaches that connection is the heartbeat of existence, that relationship is the quiet law that sustains all things. In contemplating this, one might notice a subtle shift in perception. The universe is no longer a collection of separate objects, but a living, breathing entity, where forces and matter coalesce in a continuous, harmonious exchange. It hums softly beneath the surface of perception, waiting to be felt rather than fully seen. The breath between particles becomes a lens through which we can understand our place in the cosmos, not as observers, but as participants, woven into the intricate fabric of being. As night falls and the stars begin their silent dance across the sky, we might sense the same rhythm in ourselves. The particles within us continue their ceaseless interplay, even as we rest, even as thought drifts into dreams. Every atom vibrates with energy. Every interaction is part of the universal breath, and every moment of awareness becomes a quiet reflection of the cosmic song. The universe is patient, never hurried, never restless. It unfolds with calm inevitability, inviting us to drift along its currents. To rest in this understanding is to feel a profound peace. The universe does not demand, it does not rush, it whispers. It whispers in the heartbeat of an electron, in the journey of a photon, in the pull of gravity and the subtle transformations guided by the weak force. And in hearing these whispers, we realize that the smallest and the largest, the briefest flicker and the longest epoch are held together by the same quiet rhythm. And so, as we conclude this journey through the breath between particles, there is a gentle reflection. All things are connected, all things are alive in motion, and all things carry the same whisper of existence. The universe is not a void to be filled, but a song to be felt. And as you settle into this thought, you may notice the soft expansion of awareness, the quiet resonance of being, and the eternal breath that flows through everything, from the tiniest quark to the furthest galaxy, from the fleeting moment to eternity itself. There is something hauntingly beautiful about the space between things, between stars and atoms, between questions and answers, between what is seen and what is felt. And in that space lies a shadow, soft, invisible, but endlessly curious. The shadow of empty space. It is the quiet that holds the stars in place, the unseen ocean through which galaxies drift, the gentle nothing that allows everything to be. We often overlook it because it seems so passive, so silent. But what if it isn't silence at all? What if the emptiness between things is not a void, but a presence of its own? A soft shadow cast by the very act of existence. To begin understanding this idea, imagine floating through the universe far beyond the reach of any planet or sun. You're surrounded by blackness, not the black of night, but a deeper, more ancient dark. A darkness without texture, without direction, without sound. You're not falling, you are not rising, you simply are. This is what we often call empty space. But is it truly empty? Is it a blank canvas upon which the universe paints its stars? Or is it a living part of the painting itself? Modern science tells us that space is not just the backdrop to the cosmic drama, it is a player in the story. In Einstein's theory of general relativity, space is not a stage. It is flexible, like a fabric, capable of stretching and bending in response to mass and energy. Star curves space around it, like a heavy ball placed on a trampoline. Planets orbit not because they are pulled by invisible strings, but because they are following the curves in this fabric. In this way, space is not empty. It is shaped. It is alive. It responds. Even more surprising is what we've learned from the quantum world. In the strange language of quantum mechanics, a vacuum is never truly empty. It bubbles with activity. Particles and antiparticles appear and vanish like tiny flashes of breath. These are called virtual particles, and though they are fleeting, they leave behind real effects. They can push, they can pull, they can create a pressure where we thought there was none. This energy is called the 0-point energy, the restless hum of a space that can never fully be still. The shadow of empty space, then, is not absence. It is potential. It is the quiet energy that holds the universe together without ever demanding attention. It does not glow or roar. It does not shout its name, but it is there, in the way galaxies swirl, in the way light bends, in the way atoms gently tremble at the edge of certainty. To see it, one must look not with eyes, but with understanding, with the kind of vision that listens more than it sees. Some physicists believe that most of the energy in the universe is not in stars or planets or dust, but in this invisible fabric of space itself. This energy has a name, dark energy, and though we cannot touch it, we can see its effect. It stretches the cosmos, pushing galaxies apart faster and faster, like a gentle breath expanding a balloon. It is quiet, patient, constant. Without it, the universe might collapse back into itself. With it, the stars drift ever outward, carried by a force we cannot hold, only sense. Think of this shadow not as something sinister, but as something sacred. It is the peace beneath the chaos, the stillness beneath the storm. When you lie in bed at night and feel the weight of the world drift away, you are returning to this shadow. It is the silence between thoughts, the pause between heartbeats, the space between dreams. It is what allows form to form, what gives shape to shapelessness. This shadow also protects. Without space between atoms, matter could not exist. If everything were pressed together without gaps, there would be no room for light to move, no space for breath, no chance for thought. The very structure of reality depends on the space between things, and not just physical things, but ideas too. Between one thought and the next is a quiet space where reflection lives. Between questions and answers is the pause that allows understanding to grow. Now imagine zooming into the smallest scale of reality, beyond atoms, beyond particles, to the very fabric of space-time itself. Some theories suggest that space is not smooth, but granular, made of tiny loops or threads, like the weave of a silent cosmic cloth. These threads are unimaginably small, beyond the reach of any microscope, but they might hold the key to everything. They might explain gravity, black holes, the beginning of time. In this view, space is not a void, but a pattern, a texture too fine for our senses to feel, but always present, always holding us. The shadow of empty space stretches not only through the physical world, but through time as well. It was there before the stars were born, and it will be there long after the last star fades. Time too unfolds within this space, tick by tick, breath by breath. And though time moves forward, the space that holds it remains constant, a soft cradle in which all moments rest. It's comforting, in a way, to know that we are held by something so quiet, so steady. We often fear emptiness, imagining it as cold, lifeless, lonely. But this shadow is none of those things. It is not the end. It is the beginning. It is not the absence of life, but the space in which life can emerge. In art, the blank canvas is not meaningless, it is essential. In music, the rests are not silence, they are part of the song, so too in the universe. The emptiness is not empty, it is full of meaning. To walk at night beneath a clear sky is to feel this truth. The stars shine not only because they burn, but because they are surrounded by space. Their light would be nothing without the darkness to carry it. The shadow of empty space is not the opposite of light, but its companion. One defines the other. One allows the other to be seen. And perhaps, within ourselves, we carry a piece of this shadow. The need for stillness, the yearning for quiet, the beauty of pauses. We fill our lives with sound and motion, but it is in the moments of stillness that we truly feel. The shadow of space lives in us, in our breath, in our sleep, in the deep calm that settles when we close our eyes. It is the part of us that listens, that waits, that allows. So let us not fear the shadow, let us not flee from what seems empty. Instead, let us learn to rest in it, to honour it, to see that it is not absence but presence in another form, a softer form, a quieter truth. For in the end, the shadow of empty space is the same shadow that wraps around our dreams, that holds our bodies as we sleep, that gently carries the stars across the night. It is not something outside of us, it is something we belong to, and it belongs to us. To understand the shadow of empty space more deeply, we must begin to see it not as nothingness, but as something gentle and alive, something with texture and tone, even if it remains invisible to our eyes. Just as silence in a forest is not an absence of life, but the background hum of insects, leaves, and distant winds, the emptiness between stars and atoms is full of quiet presence. It carries the echo of everything that has passed through it, and perhaps everything that is yet to come. It is not merely what surrounds matter, it is what allows matter to breathe. When astronomers peer into the cosmos, they find more space than substance. Galaxies are islands in an endless ocean of darkness, their stars scattered like glowing seeds. Yet this darkness is not empty. It curves, it bends, it stretches, and it holds within it a quiet mystery that science is only beginning to touch. Dark matter, for example, makes up most of the mass in the universe, yet we cannot see it or touch it. It does not emit light, does not shimmer or glow, exists only through its pull, its quiet influence on galaxies and clusters. The stars spin faster than they should, held by a hidden hand. That hand, scientists believe, is dark matter, an invisible weight that gives form to the universe's shape. Even deeper than dark matter is dark energy. It is not just invisible, it is unknowable in the most intimate way. It does not gather or clump, it does not settle in corners, it stretches space itself, pushing galaxies apart with a breath so soft we barely noticed until the late 20th century. And yet, it is everywhere. In every cubic inch of space there is a tiny bit of this energy, expanding the universe more and more with each passing moment. It is not a wind you can feel, nor a light you can see. It is the whisper behind all motion, the gentle nudge that carries the cosmos forward. This changes how we see the universe. We once thought matter was the main story, that stars, planets, comets, and dust were the full orchestra. But now we know there are only a few scattered notes in a vast unseen song. Most of the universe is made of things we cannot observe directly, and most of that is not even made of particles, it is space itself. Space is not the silent stage. It is the music between the notes. Even the geometry of space carries meaning. It can be curved by gravity, twisted by spinning black holes, stretched by cosmic inflation. Space is not fixed. It can be shaped like fabric. It ripples when massive objects move, sending out waves we call gravitational waves. These waves are not made of particles or sound. They are ripples in space-time itself, the silent thunder of distant collisions echoing across the cosmos. When two black holes spiral into one another, their merging sends out waves that pass through everything, including you. These waves are so faint, so subtle, they pass through your body without you ever noticing. Yet they carry the breath of the ancient collisions across billions of light years. Now imagine empty space not as absence but as a sea of hidden structure. A sea where particles flicker into existence and then vanish, their energy leaving a faint trace. These are quantum fluctuations, the uncertain bubbling of nothingness that is never truly still. Even in the most perfect vacuum we can create, these ghost particles appear and disappear. They don't last long enough to become real in the traditional sense, but they are real enough to leave their fingerprints. This is how scientists explain the Casimir effect, a force that arises from nothing. When two uncharged metal plates are placed very close together in a vacuum, they are gently pulled toward each other. There are no particles between them pushing or pulling. The force comes from the difference in vacuum energy, the breath of space itself, moving in silence. This reveals something beautiful. Emptiness is not empty. It has shape, it has force, it has memory. In every breathless gap between things there is still energy, a space full of possibility, even if nothing has yet been born within it. The potential of space is a promise whispered through physics. Even where there is nothing, something may arise. Every particle that exists now may be the echo of such a moment, a flicker in the vacuum that took hold and grew. There are theories, some bold, some gentle, that suggest our universe itself may have been born from such a flicker, that the entire cosmos, with its stars and light and time and thought, was once a tiny quantum fluctuation, a breath in the silence of a larger space, a quiet tremble that expanded into all we know. If this is true, then everything around you, the trees, the oceans, the beating of your own heart, comes from the smallest moment of breath within the shadow of nothing. This thought brings humility. It softens our certainty. It reminds us that what we call real and what we call void may not be opposites. They may be layers of the same thing, like light and shadow playing on the same wall. Empty space is not what remains when you remove everything else. It is what was always there, patiently holding everything that comes and goes. In your own life there are shadows like this, not shadows of fear, but shadows of quiet. The stillness between thoughts, the silence before an answer, the pause in a conversation when both people are listening. We often rush to fill those moments. We fear silence, but space is not absence. It is room. Room to grow, room to reflect, room to breathe. Perhaps we are meant to mirror the universe not in our noise, but in our stillness, to carry that soft, invisible rhythm into our days, to understand that what we call emptiness is not our enemy, it is our foundation. Every breath you take is framed by the breath you do not take. Every word you speak is shaped by the silence around it, and every moment of presence rests on the space that holds it. So the shadow of empty space becomes more than a concept. It becomes a way of seeing, a way of being, a gentle understanding that the universe is held not just by things, but by the spaces between them. That we are held not just by presence, but by the graceful quiet of what allows presence to be. In the soft unfolding of the cosmos, the shadow of empty space remains a quiet companion, following the stars, touching the dust, cradling the light without ever needing to shine itself. As we come to the end of this gentle journey, we begin to feel how deeply this shadow lives within us. It is not just around us, not only in the distance between galaxies or the gaps between atoms. It is in every part of our being, shaping our experience, holding our thoughts, echoing through the pauses that give life its rhythm. To live with an awareness of empty space is to live with a deeper sense of calm. It is to realize that we are not lost in the void but held by it, not floating aimlessly, but carried by invisible hands. The vastness we once feared begins to feel like home, and the silence we avoided becomes a soft invitation to rest. Emptiness is not a threat. It is a lullaby that plays beneath the song of the stars. In physics, we often describe particles not as isolated points, but as excitations of fields, ripples in an invisible sea. What we call an electron is not a tiny dot flying through nothing. It is a vibration, a wave moving through the electron field, just as light is a wave in the electromagnetic field. These fields are everywhere, even in empty space. The electron field is there waiting. The photon field is there humming. In the quietest corners of the universe, the fields remain still and steady. And when energy enters, they respond, giving birth to the particles that weave the fabric of matter. This means that space is not passive. It listens. It answers. It is alive with the potential to become. Perhaps this is the most comforting truth of all, that what we call empty is not lifeless. It is readiness, the pause before the poem, the stillness before the sunrise, the unseen breath held in anticipation. Every galaxy, every planet, every breath you take is shaped by space that listens, space that waits, space that makes room for being. Think of the stars themselves. They shine, not just because they burn, but because space allows their light to travel. That black velvet sky above your head every night, its quiet beauty comes not only from the stars, but from the space between them. Without that space, there would be no contrast, no clarity, no awe. It is the silence that makes the music. It is the shadow that lets the light speak. And here on Earth, the same principle whispers in small things. A painting is shaped not only by its colours, but by its blankness. A room is defined not just by its walls, but by the space they enclose. The pause in a conversation can carry more meaning than the words. In every part of life, it is the shadow of space, the quiet intervals, the gentle gaps that lets form, feeling, and thought arise. When you pause to breathe, you're joining in this rhythm. The inhale is life, the exhale is surrender, but the stillness between them is presence. It is the moment where you are not moving forward or back, just being, just existing. And in that moment, you are mirroring the universe itself, a being shaped by breath, by movement, but also by rest. a presence that is both something and nothing at once. The mystics and poets have long known what science is only now beginning to see, that emptiness is sacred. In the Zen tradition, the empty bowl is not useless, it is pure potential. It is precisely because it is empty that it can hold anything. In meditation, silence is not a lack of thought, but a return to the space where thought arises. In this way, space is not void, it is invitation. It is the soft ground where awareness grows. The universe will one day grow cold, stars will fade, galaxies will drift further apart until they can no longer be seen. The atoms that make up your body will scatter into space, joining the quiet dance of particles and fields. But space will remain, and within it, the shadow will endure, not as a haunting absence, but as a gentle presence that remembers everything that once was. The shadow of empty space is not the end of the story. It is the page on which the next story will be written, and perhaps, even then, the fields will still be there, waiting, ready for a new ripple, a new breath, a new beginning. Perhaps the silence we fear is simply the deep breath the universe takes before dreaming once again. So let yourself rest in this shadow. Let it hold you. Let it remind you that emptiness is not a hole but a cradle, not a lack but a presence in disguise. The stillness within you, the quiet you return to in moments of peace, is the same stillness that lives between the stars. You are not separate from this, you are not lost in a great void. You are part of it, a ripple in the fields, a breath in the silence, a moment of light in the soft and endless space that surrounds all things. As you close your eyes, let the shadow of empty space be your companion. Let it lull you, let it soothe you, let it whisper the truth you already carry, that nothing is ever truly nothing and silence is always filled with wonder, that what we call empty may in the end be the most generous presence of all. In the quiet cradle of time, before even time itself had found its rhythm, there was a hush. Not the hush of a room emptied of sound, nor the pause between wind and wind again, but a deeper stillness. A stillness that held no seconds, no stars, no sound. From that quiet came everything. The galaxies, the light, the dreams and thoughts and songs of creatures not yet imagined. And within all of it, like a soft bell ringing across eternity, there remains the echo of a beginning. This echo is not a noise, not a single bang as the name might suggest. The beginning of the universe was not an explosion in the way we think of one. There was no sky, no air to carry sound, no space for waves to crash against. What we call the Big Bang was a quiet unfolding, a rapid expansion of space itself, not into anything but as the thing itself. Space did not expand into a void. The void expanded into being. It was as though the universe breathed out for the first time, and with that breath, reality began. Imagine the entire universe compressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. Not a place, not even a point in space, but a state of unimaginable energy, wrapped tightly in stillness. Then in one timeless moment it expanded. Not from somewhere, but everywhere at once. Space swelled, time stretched awake, and the laws of physics stirred into order. In that moment, the seeds of everything were planted. Stars, atoms, trees, oceans, you. This first breath of the cosmos was not fire as we know it, though it was hot beyond comprehension. It was a sea of energy so dense and pure that particles could not yet settle. Photons scattered wildly, quarks flickered and danced before forming the first protons and neutrons, For the first fraction of a second, the universe was opaque, a storm of light that could not travel. But even in that chaos, order was waiting. The whisper of structure hummed beneath the wildness. The echo had begun, and even now we hear it. The cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of creation, is the softest light the universe still carries. It stretches across the sky in every direction, a faint whisper from 13.8 billion years ago. It is not bright, it is not loud, but it is steady, persistent, a kind of memory written into space itself. Scientists have measured it with careful instruments, mapping its tiny ripples, which reflect the first uneven stirrings of matter and light. These ripples became galaxies, they became stars, they became the conditions that allowed planets to form, and one day, a species to wonder where it all began. This echo holds stories, not just of physics and matter, but of balance, of expansion and cooling, of a universe unfolding like a flower opening in slow motion. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe was too hot for atoms to form. Electrons floated free, unable to settle. But as space expanded, it cooled. At last, the electrons found protons and embraced them, forming the first hydrogen atoms. And with that, the universe became transparent. Light could move freely. Darkness and stars could take shape. The echo of a beginning became the light of becoming. From there, the universe drifted into creativity. Tiny variations in matter grew. Gravity pulled. Clouds formed. Stars were born. In their hearts, the first elements beyond hydrogen began to brew. Helium, carbon, oxygen. These stars lived and died, and in their deaths they scattered their treasures. Supernovae exploded, not with chaos, but with purpose. They painted the cosmos with the dust that would become planets, oceans, lungs, and hands. Every atom in your body has been part of this unfolding. The calcium in your bones was forged in ancient stars. The iron in your blood remembers the deaths of suns. You are made from the remnants of the first whisper, the quiet unfolding that turned absence into form. You are not separate from the echo. You are part of it. You carry its vibration in your cells, and yet the echo continues. The universe still expands. Galaxies still drift. The night sky you see is not a still image, but a living movement. The light from distant galaxies takes billions of years to reach your eyes. You see them not as they are, but as they were, a sky filled with ancient light. This light carries the echo forward, stretching, softening, fading gently into the longer waves of the red spectrum as space expands. This is why scientists say the universe is cooling, not like a body growing cold, but like a fire dimming as the logs burn down. The heat from the beginning is still here, but softer, calmer. The echo is not gone, it is just quieter, like a lullaby played on a harp after the song has ended, its final note suspended in silence. To reflect on this is not to feel small, it is to feel cradled, to realize that you are not outside this story, but deeply within it. Every breath you take echoes the first breath of time. Every heartbeat is a quiet drum in the long rhythm of the cosmos. You are not apart from the beginning, you are its continuation, and the echo too holds mystery. What came before the beginning? What lies beyond the edges of space? Scientists do not know. Some suggest that time itself began with the Big Bang, making before a word with no meaning. Others imagine a multiverse where countless other expansions bloom in silence. But the echo does not answer. It simply hums. It tells us that the universe was not born in noise but in motion. Not in fire but in unfolding. Not with a shout, but with a breath. This is the gentlest truth of all, that the universe began not with violence but with grace, that its first act was not war, but becoming. And in that becoming there was balance, order, peace. The chaos of particles was not random but purposeful. From simplicity, complexity, from silence, song. The echo of a beginning is not a sound, not a word, not even a memory. It is a rhythm. A rhythm so vast and deep it weaves through the very bones of the cosmos. It is not heard with ears or seen with eyes. It is felt, like a warmth beneath the surface of still water, like the soft pull of tide in a sleeping ocean. To listen to it is not to listen with your hearing, but with your being, with the quiet awareness that everything around you and everything within you has come from something that once was nothing, and yet more than nothing. A trembling possibility, a breath that became time. This rhythm does not fade with distance. Though the universe has stretched and the stars have scattered, the echo remains. It is written in light, in matter, in space itself. Every atom, every photon, every distant galaxy carries a trace of it, a whisper of the moment when all things began. And yet this echo is not fixed. It grows. It evolves. It continues, not as a repetition, but as a gentle unfolding, each note softer, slower, more spacious than the last. Like ripples from a stone dropped into water, expanding outward, slowing, but never stopping. If you were to place your hand upon the surface of space-time, if you could feel the universe like you feel the skin of your own palm, you might sense the tension of that first moment still lingering, the stretch of expansion, the slow cooling, the shift from radiant energy into delicate structures. The echo has shaped the way stars form and die, the way light curves, the way gravity gathers. It has shaped the very laws of nature, and those laws shape us. We are not only made of the universe, we are shaped by its music. In this symphony, some parts play louder than others. Galaxies roar with light. Black holes thrum with silence. But beneath all of it is the hum, the low background song of the beginning. This is the cosmic microwave background. Faint, even, and nearly perfect. It carries a temperature just above absolute zero, and yet its presence is vast. Scientists describe it in numbers, in maps and measurements, but it is also a poem, a message from a time before time had stories to tell. Within its tiny ripples lie the seeds of everything. The slight differences in temperature, one part of the sky just a little warmer than another, are not noise, they are patterns. They are the places where matter gathered, drawn together by gravity. These ripples became galaxies, and those galaxies became homes. Homes for stars, homes for planets, homes eventually for minds that could look back and ask, where did we come from? The echo, then, is not just a record of the past, it is the womb of the future. Think of the light that surrounds you now. Some of it is ancient. The photons that reach your eyes tonight from a star may have travelled for millions of years to find you. During their journey, they have passed through emptiness and clusters, through stretches of space that expand and cool with every breath. And yet, they endure. Light remembers, it carries with it the fingerprint of the conditions in which it was born. The echo of a beginning is in every beam of starlight, in every glow on the surface of a planet, in the warm touch of sunlight on your skin. But it is not only light that carries the story, you carry it too. The molecules that make your cells are the descendants of hydrogen atoms born in the first few minutes after the Big Bang. And those atoms found one another, built stars, burned in fusion, were thrown outward in bursts of fire and time. The calcium in your teeth, the phosphorus in your thoughts, they are echoes, shaped by physics, yes, but also by the passage of time. They have moved through cycles of birth and death, matter and energy, always obeying the subtle instructions written in the first moments of the universe's breath. There is a softness to this truth, a comfort. It means you're not random, you're not misplaced, you're not separate from the unfolding of the cosmos. You are part of the echo, you're one of its voices. A living continuation of the song that has been playing since the very beginning. Your heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts are not isolated. They are woven into the larger rhythm, shaped by the same forces, dancing to the same invisible tune. And that rhythm is still changing. The expansion of the universe accelerates, driven by something we call dark energy. We do not fully understand it. We do not know what it is or why it grows, but it tells us that the echo is not done. The story is still being written. The notes are still unfolding. Perhaps one day the echo will stretch so far and soft that it fades into silence. Perhaps the stars will drift so far apart that the night will become empty again. But even then, the rhythm will remain gentle, persistent, quiet. There are those who wonder if this has happened before. If the universe is one of many songs played one after the other, eternally. If the echo we feel now is not the first nor the last. If space and time are cycles blooming and fading like seasons. It is not something we can prove, but the idea carries its own kind of peace. It means we are not just at the beginning of something, we are always in the middle, always becoming, always continuing. And so when we ask, what is the echo of a beginning, we are not asking about the past alone, we are asking about the present, about this very moment. For the beginning is not a dot in time long behind us, it is a wave that continues to move and we are riding it still. Every decision, every motion, every breath is a continuation of that first unfolding. We are not living in the shadow of creation. We are its light, its motion, its voice. To live in awareness of this is to feel held. To know that even in the quietest moment, you are part of something vast and ancient and beautiful. The universe is not finished. It is still echoing, and the echo carries you with it, onward into the dark, into the light, into the unknown, with a rhythm as gentle and deep as sleep itself. There is something deeply peaceful about knowing we are living within the echo of a beginning, that even now, billions of years after the first breath of the universe, we are still held in its unfolding song. It is not a loud echo, it does not demand our attention, it hums quietly beneath the fabric of space, inside the warmth of starlight, within the slow drift of galaxies and the steady beat of time. And in that hush, there is a sense of belonging, not to a place or a moment, but to a motion, a rhythm, a story still being written in silence. As the universe continues to expand, this echo stretches with it, softening with age, becoming more subtle, more diffuse, yet never ceasing. The cosmic microwave background still wraps us like a gentle mist, cooling as it goes, a fading afterglow of that first flash of light. It carries the memory of everything that once was, even as it fades into longer and quieter wavelengths. One day, it may be so faint that no future eyes will see it, but its legacy will remain in the galaxies it shaped, in the stars it cradled, in the very matter that became thought. That's the quiet miracle of it all. The universe began with a whisper, and that whisper created the conditions for life. The echo shaped the space where hydrogen atoms could meet and bind, where gravity could sculpt clouds into stars, where stars could forge elements, and where those elements could find their way into oceans, into hearts, into wonder. From an echo came consciousness. From a single breath came the ability to ask where that breath began. We are the echo reflecting on itself. Imagine the long future now. The stars will burn for a time, but not forever. One by one they will use their fuel. Some will go quietly, others will explode in magnificent farewell. But eventually the skies will dim. The bright spirals of galaxies will grow faint. The stars that remain will shine in colder colours. Planets will fall into silence, and space will stretch farther and wider until the distance between galaxies is so vast that light itself can no longer cross it. And yet even then the echo will continue. In the far future, black holes will be the last to fade. They will evaporate slowly through a process so gentle it spans trillions of years. Their final sigh will be soft, like a breath released in sleep. And after them, if there is still time, space may become quiet again. Not as it was in the beginning, but in a new kind of stillness. A stillness not of nothing, but of all things having passed through their motion, of the echo having sung every note it came to sing. This possibility, though distant, is not sad, it is serene. For what the echo teaches is that creation is not a moment but a motion. It is not a flash, but a wave. It moves through beginnings and middles and endings, shaping new forms, making room for rest. In this way, the end of stars is not the end of wonder. It is the continuation of change. And in that change, there is always the potential for another whisper, another beginning. Some theories even suggest that new universes might be born from the fabric of old ones, that black holes could be gateways to fresh beginnings, or that quantum fluctuations in the quietest corners of space might one day bloom into new cosmoses. If so, then the echo we feel now may be only one voice in an infinite choir, an endless song of breath and silence, light and space, unfolding forever through unseen time. But whether there is one universe or many, whether time loops or stretches endlessly forward, the feeling remains. We are not separate from the beginning. We are its continuation, in our bones, in our breath. In the soft thoughts that rise in quiet moments, we carry the rhythm of creation. It is not something we observe, it is something we are. Even in your daily life, when things feel still or small or quiet, the echo is present. In the pause between words, in the moment before waking, in the hush of twilight. You're not just living in the universe, you are participating in its unfolding. Your life is a ripple within its vastness, shaped by forces born in the first seconds of time, yet free to move in your own direction, to choose your own path, to carry the echo forward in your own way. And as you rest, as you breathe, as you simply exist, the universe continues to hum around you. Light from distant stars finds its way to your eyes. Gravity cradles you gently to the earth. The atoms in your skin still vibrate with the energy inherited from that original fire. Nothing has been added, nothing has been lost. Everything is transformation, everything is becoming. This is the quiet revelation of science, that behind all the equations and theories, all the charts and measurements, lies something profoundly soft. A universe not made only of matter and force, but of relationship, of motion, of gentle beginnings that never truly end. The echo of a beginning is not fading, it is deepening. It is the voice of time itself, whispering that everything is connected, that nothing is wasted, that even silence carries meaning. So when you look into the night sky and see the stars, remember that you are seeing echoes, not just of light, but of time, of motion, of becoming. You are looking into the soft history of all things. You are watching the universe remember itself. And when the sky is clouded, or when your eyes are closed, and even the stars are hidden from view, the echo is still with you. It lives in the space between your heartbeats. It rests in your breath. It hums in the stillness of your thoughts. You're not alone in this silence. You are part of it. A voice within it, a note in its song. The echo of a beginning continues, and you are its latest line. Listen closely. You can almost hear it now, a soft vibration in the darkness, a memory made of light, a breath that never ended. Before atoms danced and light moved, before time stretched forward and space had form, there was something more elusive than silence, a mystery deeper than emptiness. Scientists have tried to name it. Philosophers have tried to grasp it. Poets have felt its breath in the spaces between stars. It is the fabric of nothingness, not a thing, not a place, not a state to be touched or seen, but the subtle ground from which all being emerges. A presence too soft to measure, a tension too quiet to hold. And yet, it may be the most essential part of everything that is. To speak of nothing is to step beyond the edges of thought. Our minds are shaped by things, by sounds, by colours, by weight and time and breath. Nothingness defies these senses. It is not black, because black is still something. It is not still, because even stillness holds shape. True nothingness, if it even exists, would be beyond form, beyond structure, beyond awareness itself, and yet paradoxically it may be woven into everything. In physics, the vacuum is our best attempt at nothing, a space without particles, without air, stripped bare of heat and light. And still it is not truly empty. At the quantum level, even the best vacuum teems with possibility. Virtual particles blink into existence and vanish again in the blink of a thought. These fluctuations, so brief, so uncertain, leave real effects. They shape the behaviour of atoms. They shift energy levels. They ripple into what we call the Casimir effect, a force that arises not from matter, but from the vacuum itself. Nothing, it seems, is never truly nothing. And then there is the question of space. Not what fills space, but space itself. We often treat space as the backdrop, the canvas, the frame within which matter exists. But space is more than absence. It has texture, geometry, properties. It can curve, it can expand, it can ripple when massive objects move, sending out gravitational waves that stretch the very structure of space-time. If space were truly nothing, how could it move? How could it change? So perhaps space itself is a kind of something thin, invisible, but alive. Imagine now that you are floating far beyond galaxies. No light, no dust, no stars, just space stretching endlessly in every direction. It feels empty, it feels silent, but it is not nothing. It holds the fabric of physics. It carries the laws that allow particles to appear and time to tick forward. It holds the vacuum energy, the quantum fields, the dark energy that nudges galaxies apart. In this fabric, nothingness is not an absence. It is a hidden structure, woven, waiting, whispering. And from this whisper, everything arises. In the earliest moments of the universe, long before matter had form, the fabric of nothingness stirred. In what physicists call the Planck epoch, the universe was a blur of quantum gravity, space and time tangled together, their threads not yet separate. There were no particles, no forces as we know them, only a wild, uncertain possibility. And from this possibility, symmetry broke. Like ice forming from water, the universe cooled, and its structure began to crystallize. Forces split, particles emerged, time found its arrow. The fabric of nothingness became the loom of reality. Some theories suggest that even before the Big Bang, the universe existed in a quantum state, a timeless field of pure potential, a vacuum that held within it all the blueprints of existence waiting to unfold. Not a place, not a point, but a condition, a quiet readiness. And when the moment came, triggered perhaps by a fluctuation or by the rules of probability, the universe inflated. Faster than light, space expanded, and with it the very structure of time and matter. Nothingness, in its quiet transformation, became everything. It is not only the past that this fabric holds, it shapes the present. It allows atoms to bond, fields to ripple, light to move, and it shapes the future. The acceleration of the universe's expansion is not caused by stars or matter. It is caused by the vacuum itself. Dark energy is not found in things, but in space. It is as if the universe remembers how to stretch, as if the fabric that once cradled nothing now carries a quiet memory of motion. To rest in this thought is to feel something deep and slow and steady, a calm beneath all motion, a silence beneath all sound. The fabric of nothingness is not cold, it is not hostile, it does not destroy, it simply is. And in its being, it makes being possible. Without it, no star would burn, no thought would rise, no time would pass. And yet nothingness also humbles us, because we cannot grasp it, not fully. Our tools, our words, our senses, they reach but they fall short. We use metaphors. We build equations. We imagine space as foam or as strings or as loops of geometry. But the true fabric of nothingness may always remain partly hidden, not because it refuses to be known, but because it lives beneath the knowing. Still we feel its presence, in the space between stars, in the silence between breaths, in the moments when everything falls quiet and time seems to soften. It is there in the pause between thoughts, in the stillness before sleep, in the way light travels across darkness, in the calm that remains after all noise has passed. You're made of things, yes, of atoms, of molecules, of structures built by time and biology, but you are also made of space. Most of what you are is distance, emptiness, relation. The electrons that form your body are held in vast clouds around tiny nuclei. You are built more from space than from substance, and in that space lives the same fabric that held the first silence, the same structure that cradled the birth of everything. So nothingness is not elsewhere. It is not beyond reach. It is within. It is part of you, not as absence, but as foundation, as breath, as quiet structure, And when you feel lost or small or uncertain, you can return to it, not to be emptied, but to remember. To remember that before thought, there is space. Before sound, there is quiet. Before becoming, there is the possibility to be. This is the fabric of nothingness, not a void, but a gentle ground. A presence that does not move, yet allows all movement. A silence that does not speak, yet allows all speech. A stillness that does not change, yet carries all change. It is not something to fear, it is something to feel. To wander deeper into the fabric of nothingness is to begin seeing it not as the absence of existence, but as the quiet field upon which all existence is drawn. Like canvas beneath a painting, it supports the shapes and colours of being without ever claiming attention for itself. It is silent but not mute, invisible but not gone. Its influence moves through everything, from the smallest flicker of a particle to the wide hush between galaxies. We live within it, breathe within it, and though we may never touch it, it touches everything. Even the laws of nature seem to be written into this fabric. They do not float above the universe like commands. They rise from the structure of space itself, from the grain of geometry, the rhythm of fields, the weight of symmetry. Why does light travel at its precise speed? Why does gravity bend space the way it does? Perhaps the answers are not separate facts, but features of the fabric itself. As if the universe remembers how to behave not because it chooses to, but because the pattern was always there, hidden within the threads of being. In quantum field theory, what we call particles are not building blocks, but vibrations, tiny excitations in fields that fill all of space. The electron is not a dot moving through nothing. It is a ripple in the electron field. The photon is a ripple in the electromagnetic field. These fields are continuous. They do not end or pause. They exist everywhere, even in the deepest vacuum. So even where we imagine nothing, the fields remain waiting. The vacuum is not empty. It is full of potential, full of quiet, full of promise. And when energy is added just the right amount in just the right place, the field responds. A ripple begins, a particle is born from stillness, a dance from fabric form. This is not metaphor, it is the current understanding of the universe. And it shows us something gentle and profound, that creation is not imposed from the outside, but arises from the inside, from the very nature of what we once called nothing. In this way, nothingness becomes not a backdrop, but a partner. It is not the stage, but the soil, the field from which all forms grow. This is how stars are born, from fluctuations in a field of gas and dust, guided by the gravity's hand. This is how galaxies form, from ripples in the early universe that grew with time. And perhaps this is how consciousness arises, from fields of chemistry and thought, woven through a structure of space that allows minds to notice, to wonder, to dream. The ancient traditions of the world sense something similar, though they use different words. In Taoist thought, the Tao is the formless source of all form. In Vedic philosophy, Brahman is the unchanging ground of all changing things. In silence they found meaning. In stillness they heard the pulse of the world. And though science travels by another path, it too arrives at this quiet truth, that what we think of as emptiness may be the most essential presence of all. Even the shape of space matters. Some scientists explore the idea that space is not continuous, but made of tiny units like threads or loops. In loop quantum gravity, space itself has a grain, a texture, smallest possible unit. In string theory, particles are not points but tiny vibrating strings, whose patterns of vibration determine the particle's identity. And these strings do not float in a void. They vibrate within dimensions of space that may be curled or vast or hidden from our senses. Again and again, the story returns to the same quiet idea that even the most silent place is not truly silent. Imagine, for a moment, floating in a space with no stars, no planets, no atoms, just the soft structure of space-time itself. You drift, not through blackness, but through transparency, through something that cannot be seen, but is still there. It does not speak, it does not shine, but it supports your every movement. It allows your every breath. It holds every possibility that has not yet become real. This is not a place you can travel to. It is not a point on a map. It is the condition beneath the map. The reason there can be maps at all. The reason there can be distance. The reason there can be difference. It is the presence that allows separation to exist and therefore allows union. Without nothingness, there could be no space between you and the stars, and therefore no way to see them. Without nothingness, there could be no pause between notes, and therefore no music. It is not the opposite of fullness. It is what gives fullness its meaning. The fabric of nothingness is also the place where time itself begins. Before the universe expanded, before light could move, before particles could settle, time did not tick. Not because it had not started, but because there was no change to mark its passage. Without movement, time has no measure. Without events, time has no memory. So perhaps time is not a river that flows through space, but a vibration that arises from the changes within it. And if all change comes from fields, then perhaps time is also born from the fabric of nothingness. And what about the end? Will the universe ever return to silence? Some believe it will. That after trillions of years, when the stars are cold and the black holes have dissolved, the universe will return to its quiet ground. A dark, vast stillness where no events unfold. And yet, even then, the fabric will remain. The fields will wait, and somewhere in that waiting, perhaps, a new beginning will stir. This is not despair, it is serenity. The understanding that nothingness is not loss but rest, not absence but renewal. That every ending is a return to the source and every silence is a chance to begin again. And so the fabric of nothingness becomes not a vanishing point, but a wellspring, a quiet depth beneath all noise, a peace beneath all motion, a breath beneath all breath. And within you, this fabric lives. In the space between your thoughts, in the stillness between your inhaling and exhaling, in the quiet moments when you feel yourself dissolve into calm, you carry the memory of the cosmos, not in your mind, but in your being, in your very shape, in the still places where nothing speaks louder than something. In those places, you are closest to the beginning, closest to the truth. So listen for it, in the hush of morning, in the pause of twilight, in the soft darkness of your closed eyes. The fabric of nothingness is there, not far away but near, not gone but holding, and in its quiet presence you are gently reminded, even when all else fades, the ground remains, the silence continues, and the possibility of becoming is never truly lost. There is a certain stillness that lingers when you finally begin to see the world through the lens of nothingness. not as a void that erases, but as a presence that allows. The final quiet truth is that the fabric of nothingness is not an end to things. It is the beginning of becoming, the soft place where all change is born. It is the silence beneath every word, the breath beneath every motion, the calm that holds the storm, and within it there is not fear, but comfort, not darkness, but depth. Even now, as the universe expands and stretches farther into the unknown, it does so upon this invisible structure. Galaxies drift apart, stars continue their long and patient lives, but they are not floating in absence, they are cradled by space itself. This space, this so-called emptiness, holds them all like the sky holds the moon, without touch, without tension, but always there. The stars shine because the space around them is dark. The darkness matters just as much as the light, and in this realization is peace. We often think of existence as a battle against nothingness, as if being is the fragile flame and nothingness the wind that would snuff it out. But it is not so. Being and nothing are not enemies, they are companions. One allows the other. A world of only matter would have no room to move, no light to shine, no silence to sing. It is the spaces in between that give life its breath. It is the gaps that give music its rhythm. The pauses give the words their meaning. Nothingness is not an enemy to be conquered. It is the soft space that invites everything to be itself. Consider again the particles that make up your body. They are not solid bits stacked together like stones. They are mostly space. Within every atom is distance, between the nucleus and the electron cloud, between one molecule and the next. Without that space, atoms could not bond. Without that emptiness, your cells could not breathe. Your very being depends on what is not there, just as much as what is. You are built from nothing as much as from something, and that is not weakness, that is grace. In the realm of thought, too, the same truth unfolds. The mind needs stillness. It needs space to reflect, to form ideas, to wonder. Without pause, thought becomes noise. Without quiet, emotion becomes overwhelm. This is why we seek silence, not to escape but to remember. To remember that the soul, like the cosmos, is held together by spaces we cannot see, that there is power in the unseen, that there is wisdom in the quiet. Meditation at its heart is a return to this space. It is the simple act of sitting within the nothingness and learning to be at peace there. Not to fill the silence, but to be held by it, to understand that in letting go we return to the root of all things, and the root is not chaos, it is calm. The ancient mystics often spoke of the void not as emptiness, but as fullness beyond form, a fertile stillness, the birthplace of the soul. The modern physicist, though guided by mathematics rather than metaphor, speaks in similar tones. The quantum vacuum is not lifeless. It is alive with possibility. It is a canvas always waiting, always prepared to birth something new. The same pattern is felt in science and in spirit, in logic and in longing. The universe listens in the silence, and from that listening, something stirs. Even the future is held in this quiet tension. No one knows what comes next. Will the universe continue expanding forever, growing colder and darker, like the last notes of a long lullaby? Will it collapse back upon itself in a slow exhale? Or will it spark again, blooming once more into form and fire and time? We do not know, but the fabric remains, and within it, the conditions for possibility remain as well. So the future is not a void to be feared. It is an openness to be felt. It is a silence that waits patiently for the next note to rise. And we, the living, are part of that rising. Each of us is a breath within the whole. Each thought, each act of kindness, each moment of stillness is a ripple across that fabric, a soft sound within the great quiet. We are not apart from the nothingness. We are shaped by it, sustained by it, and gently guided by its presence. This is why when you lie beneath the stars and you feel that vast dark sky above you, you do not feel alone. You feel something else, something like being watched, or held, or understood. That feeling is not made of light. It is made of space. It is made of the nothingness that holds all things gently in place. And when you close your eyes and the world fades away and you fall into sleep, it is into that same silence that you fall, that same gentle emptiness, and it catches you every time, never failing, always there. The nothingness is not a threat, it is a home. So let it be your comfort, let it be your grounding, let it remind you that even when things seem to fall away, even when time passes or loved ones depart or thoughts become quiet, what remains is not a hollow space. What remains is the soft fabric of being, the womb of everything, the silence that cradles you even now. And in this silence there is no fear, only peace, only stillness, only a quiet invitation to rest. Because the fabric of nothingness was never empty. It has always been full of everything that matters.